I can't exactly remember what year this happened, but I've never been able to forget the fear I felt that night. It's one of those experiences you assume could never happen to you, or only happens in horror movies. Being that naive just makes it 100 times more terrifying if you ever do go through something like it. I was pretty young then, still in middle school, at that awkward age where you start to feel like you're becoming more grown up. You know, thinking you're more of a man or something, which seems funny looking back now. Anyway, it was summertime, so most of my days were spent either hanging out outside with friends or gaming indoors. That weekend was different, though. My parents were going on a short road trip to a city 8 hours away to relive their honeymoon, or something like that. I didn't really care much about the details, since all I could think about was how excited I was to have the house to myself. I was looking forward to inviting my friends over for a sleepover with no rules or anyone to tell us what to do. They left early Saturday morning, so by the time I woke up, they were already gone. I immediately texted my best friend Finn. The only problem was that his parents definitely wouldn't let him stay over if they knew there were no adults at home. But after some lying, Finn managed to get permission to come. He wasn't going to arrive until later that day, around 6 in the evening. Being excited, I opened up the front window so I could watch for him when he got here. But when I did, I quickly noticed a man standing outside. The only reason it caught my attention was because he was unusually close to the house, beyond the sidewalk, near the garage. He had a very distinct look. Longish dark hair, a patchy beard, and he was tall and skinny. It made me feel uneasy, so I moved away from the window, not wanting him to see me watching. A few minutes later, I peeked again, and he was gone. I didn't think it was anything worth worrying about. The rest of the day went by normally. I spent most of it in my room playing Xbox until Finn finally arrived at 6. We grabbed snacks from the kitchen, then headed upstairs, locked ourselves in my room, and played video games for about 5 hours straight. It was around 11:30 when Finn left the room to use the bathroom. But only 30 seconds later, he came back and asked if I heard something. I asked him what he meant, since I hadn't heard anything. Before he could answer, the entire house suddenly went dark. The TV, Xbox lights, everything shut off. I couldn't even see Finn, who was standing just 5 feet away in the doorway. I felt around the floor with my hands until I found my phone and turned on its flashlight. Both of us stood silent for a moment, confused about why the power had suddenly gone out. I was also trying to listen for the sound Finn said he heard just before the blackout. After a while of hearing nothing and the power still not coming back, I asked him again what sound he'd heard. Finn said he wasn't exactly sure. Maybe it was a thump or a footstep from the floor below us. With the power outage, we figured it was probably connected somehow. But we still didn't know what caused it, and being younger and home alone, it felt a little unsettling. Realizing we needed to figure out what happened, we went into the hallway and headed down to the first floor. Once we left my room, we could hear the wind blowing outside. It didn't sound like anything unusual, but maybe strong enough to mess with the power. Maybe we were just looking for something to blame. Neither of us really knew what to do in a blackout. I knew there was an electrical box in the basement that could reset the power, but I wasn't sure how it worked. I felt nervous about touching anything down there. Finn thought he might be able to handle it, so I showed him where the basement was. Strangely, the basement door was already open. Hardly anyone ever went down there since it was unfinished, except for storage and old junk. But with my parents packing for their trip, I figured they might have gone down there recently for some luggage or something. The basement door was toward the back of the house, so I hadn't gone near it all day. That small detail made the situation even more unsettling. We still had our phone flashlights on. So Finn took the lead as we carefully stepped down the creaky wooden stairs. The basement wasn't very large, more like a wide corridor with concrete walls and boxes and loose items stacked along the sides. Naturally, it was pitch dark. Anything not caught in our flashlight beams was swallowed in blackness. We made our way to the electrical box. The metal panel covering it was already partly open. Finn checked it out, but seemed just as nervous as I was about touching anything. The main switch, a larger one, was flipped the opposite way from the others. Of course, we had no clue what that meant. After hesitating for a moment, Finn finally flipped the switch. Right away, we heard soft beeping noises and random startup sounds from the appliances on the floor above. The basement stayed completely dark, since we hadn't even bothered to try the lights before coming down. There was only a thin beam of light from the stairwell above. We started walking back down the corridor toward the stairs, but just before reaching them, we heard a sudden shuffling sound from the far side of the basement. Both of us froze, and I shined my light toward the noise. There was someone standing there in the darkness. I could clearly see their outline lit up by the flashlight and instantly recognized the tall, skinny figure with long, dark hair. He was half hidden behind some boxes, which cast a shadow over his face, so I couldn't tell if he saw us or if we were making eye contact. I panicked, turned around, and bolted up the stairs. Finn was right behind me. I slammed the door shut, and we both ran straight out the front door. We were completely freaked out. We ran across the street while I quickly called 911. It was obvious now that the man in the basement had been the one who cut the power. While I was on the phone with the emergency operator, we both saw a shadow pass by one of the downstairs windows. Then about 15 seconds later, another shadow moved past an upstairs window. I think it was near my parents' room that he was walking through. But for the next few minutes, nothing else happened until the police arrived. They searched the house, but found nobody there. The man had already escaped through one of the back windows. Of course, my parents were called and asked a million questions, but in the end, nothing really came of it. There are so many disturbing things to think about when it comes to what happened that night, or what could have happened. Like how long that man had been watching our house, or how long he had been watching our family. What exactly did he plan to do after cutting the power and hiding in the basement? Thankfully, my parents were wise enough to move us out of that house not long after. Hopefully, we'll never run into that man again.